Transmutation magic is all about turning one thing into another. So let's go ahead and turn this intro into some content. Well, that was the wrong spell. Starting off for today, we have the second level Spike Growth. You conjure a 20-foot radius of twisting vines and sharp thorns at a point you can see within 150 feet. That area becomes difficult terrain and deals 2d4 piercing damage for every 5 feet a creature moves through the area. This is one of those spells that doesn't sound all that impressive, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, this spell could easily be considered broken. A 20-foot radius circle effectively means a 40-foot diameter circle end to end. Considering that each grid on a battle map is 5 feet, if a creature walked through the entire Spike Growth, they would be taking 16d4 damage. But that's not realistic, right? No creature would willingly do that. A more realistic scenario is that you cast this on top of an enemy with them roughly in the center. This cuts the effective size in half, but that is still a minimum of 8d4 worth of damage for them to move out of the area, assuming they can't fly or teleport. And let's not forget that most creatures in 5e have a base 30-foot movement speed, meaning that it is literally impossible for them to even leave this space without having to dash. And a creature that's dashing is a creature that isn't attacking, and that's worth a lot more than just the damage. But the cherry on top of that is that this spell is area of effect, so it affects multiple creatures. Even if this spell doesn't deal max damage to all creatures, the additional effects make it arguably the most powerful early transmutation spell, and arguably the most powerful tier 1 spell in all of 5th edition. So if you've ever needed to control a zone, pick up Spike Growth because it's quite literally broken. Picking spell number 2 was tough, considering that there's almost 100 transmutation spells in all of 5th edition. It's kind of easy to see why. In fact, I guarantee your list is going to look different from mine, so make sure to leave a comment and let me know what yours looks like. Then we'll get to see if you agree with my next spell on the list, the second level Heat Metal. You choose a metal object you can see within 60 feet and superheat it. Any creature in contact with that object takes 2d8 fire damage when you cast the spell. But on your subsequent turns, you can use your bonus action to cause the damage again. Being able to deal damage with your bonus action is super powerful. But that's not even the best part of this spell. The best part is actually the second part of the spell description, where it states that if a creature is holding or wearing an object that it takes damage from in this way, they need to make a con save or drop the object. Effectively, this is talking about weapons. But wait, there's even more. If it doesn't drop the object, it has disadvantage on all attack rolls and ability checks until the start of your next turn. Now, if that object happens to be armor, there is 0 chance that creature could drop the armor in any amount of time that's reasonable, meaning that you effectively give it permanent disadvantage as long as you deal damage with Heat Metal. The only negative about Heat Metal is that it is really only usable on targets that have weapons or armor, so it can be a little restrictive. But if you ever find yourself in that situation, there is almost no better spell than Heat Metal. The third spell wasn't as hard as the other options on this list because, let's be honest, we were all expecting Polymorph.
Did somebody say Polymorph? When Lee was doing his research for this video, he happened to DM me on Discord to just try and get my opinion about which transmutation spells would be worth mentioning in this video. Right away, the first one that came to mind for me was Polymorph. So what makes Polymorph so magically delicious as a spell? For me, it's simple. It's versatility. Most spells typically do one thing, like damage an enemy, create an area of effect, maybe heal or boost an ally in some fashion. But Polymorph's one thing that it does can be applied so many different ways that, honestly, outside of the Wish spell, I challenge you to go down to the comment section and find another spell in all of 5th edition that does more than Polymorph. So the basic premise for Polymorph is really quite simple. It's basically you just take an action and you pick a target within 60 feet of you that you can see, and you can turn them into an animal. Now, the beast that you turn them into can be as powerful as the target is. One of the most common uses for Polymorph is to use it either on yourself or an ally. And in that case, you get to go big. Maybe you turn your ally into a giant ape and just have tons of hit points and punch things really hard. Or maybe you go T-Rex. Sure, you might lose some arm power, but you have all those teeth and no toothbrush. In order to succeed on pulling this off against an enemy, they need to fail a wisdom saving throw. So typically, I would probably look to do this against like a big brute, like a big frontline enemy that's charging at you. But even if you want to go after a spellcaster or against a target you're not really sure, there's ways to kind of make sure that that save is going to fail. And those are just some examples of what you can do in combat with Polymorph. One thing I did forget to mention when it comes to the extra hit points that Polymorph can give you is if your ally has like say 3 to 5 hit points, whatever it is, and then you do cast Polymorph on them to turn them into something with a lot of hit points like that giant ape or T-Rex, it's in a way kind of like a backdoor healing option. If your hit points in your Polymorph form is reduced to 0, it functions just like the Druid's Wild Shape, and then you're going to revert back to your regular form. But seriously, this spell is so incredibly versatile. It's so creative. Like the sky is the limit. Like as if nature is doing something, you can do it. I mean, I just can't even imagine how. Oh gosh. Hey, okay. So I know.
Get out of here,
having
Jake.
Some fun there. So
Telekinesis.
Jake is blasting off again.
I sure do dislike those fellas at J&J Tabletop. Sure would be terrible if you went and checked out their channel. That might be somewhere on the screen somewhere here. Man, that would suck. Anyways, now that that's over with, let's talk about telekinesis. You gain the ability to move and manipulate objects with your mind. For creatures, it's a contested check, where effectively you target a creature and attempt to telekinetically move them. That creature needs to make a contested strength check against your spellcasting ability modifier, and if they fail, they become restricted until the end of your next turn, and you can move them anywhere you want within 30 feet of their current position. Now, I don't know about you, but that is a long time for a creature to be restrained, especially since you can move them anywhere you want. Oh, what's that? You happen to be near a cliff? Boy howdy, sure would suck if I dropped concentration right now. Or what about that wall of fire over there? Did you ever wonder what it would be like to be a marshmallow roasting over a fire? I hope not, that'd be weird. But what if you wanted to move an object? Well, this spell can lift objects up to 1,000 pounds. And to put that into perspective, according to page 175 of the player's handbook, a creature can lift up to 30 times its strength score, meaning that if you have 20 strength, you can lift about 600 pounds. Barbarians, who needs them? God, I hate what those glasses bring out in me. For the math nerds out there, effectively, this equates to a strength score of 33. Who needs a strength score? Just pick up telekinesis and you're good to go. And speaking about strength, let's talk about the absolute Chad 12% of you who are actually subscribed to the channel. Oh yeah, and like the 5 girls who are subscribed too. You girls rock too. As for the other 88% of you, I only have one thing to ask. Why? Anyways, the last spell we have for today's list is Plant Growth. You channel vitality into plants at a point within 150 feet. The area within a 100-foot radius of that point becomes overgrown with thick vegetation, and any movement through it is reduced significantly. For every 1 foot you move, it costs 4 feet. This means that if you want to move 5 feet, which is a single grid, it would take you 20 feet of your movement speed to do so. That's an 80% reduction in your total movement speed, which is absolutely bananas. And the wording here is very important. It specifically states 1 foot costs 4 foot, meaning that this is not difficult terrain. That's right. Technically, you could stack this with other difficult terrain spells, like maybe Spike Growth to double down on the movement speed reduction. And I haven't even talked about the size of the area. Just to exemplify how big a 100-foot radius is, that is a 200-foot diameter circle, making it roughly the length of an entire hockey rink or the wingspan of a Boeing 777. Needless to say, you will not have any trouble capturing all of your enemies within this spell. Although you might also catch yourself in the spell, so keep that in mind. Now, before we get to the angry comments, I do have honorable mentions that almost made the list but just didn't make the cut. Spells like Fly, Haste, Slow, Animate Objects, Disintegrate, and Reverse Gravity are all great spells, but honestly, out of 100 transmutation spells, there's just too many to choose from. And I know that my list is going to look different from yours, so again, let me know in the comment section below what you think. And if you're really impressed with this video, you should consider becoming a patron or a member like the awesome people behind me, or in front of me. Both members and patrons get access to all of my homebrew, which currently includes over 100 spells, 6 unique subclasses, 30 plus magic items, and a bunch of extra feats, creatures, and everything you can use in 5th edition at your table today. But that is all I have for today's video. So thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.